Hello everybody, I have returned. I apologize for the delay on this video. There was no health-related emergency this time. It's just work has been absolutely insane lately to the point where I'm going to start punching walls or punching people at the office. Just absolutely frustrating, but we're going to get through it. We'll get through it. And my daughter hit a big milestone last week. She had her first birthday and she got baptized. And we had the party set for both events on the same day. And planning all of that was a bit of a nightmare. We've gotten past it. Everything's good. My daughter's great. And I've got some time to finally film a video. So with that said, let's get right into it because there's a lot of catch up to do both on the WWE front and the AEW front. I guess I'll start with AEW. I did see Forbidden Door. I kind of felt the same way about that show that I do about all AEW pay-per-views, where it's like generally pretty good, but the show and the matches are too long. And this show, when you count the pre-show, it had a total of 15 matches. I'm like, guys, and every single one of them is trying to be like a really good match. Maybe not the pre-show so much, but the pre-show had like 5 matches on it. And it's like, dude, come on, like, time out, scale it back. Too much. It's too much. If you want to get certain people on a show, just do a battle royal, like, or cram them into your 87-person ladder match. I don't know. But generally, overall, the show was enjoyable. It's just the show was too long, which is the same criticism I have of all AEW pay-per-views. But heading into All In, it looks like things are really starting to heat up. The last couple of Dynamites have presented some interesting things, and I'm like, okay, they're kind of catching my notice a little bit. The women's division, I mean, you know, that's been from the very beginning. That's been a point of criticism for AEW, is that their women's division just hasn't been up to snuff when you compare it to WWE. But okay, we're heading into this big stadium show in Wembley, and they've got 2 women's matches I kind of care about. With Britt Baker's AEW return, this will be her pay-per-view return, and she's going to be facing Mercedes Moné, and I'm like, that's kind of a big match for AEW to have, given Moné's star power and Britt being the biggest name that they've created for the women's division. And she looked great, by the way, when she came back. I was like, man, she looks like she's in great shape. She looks like she's got a little bit of extra fire, and she was sorely missed as well. So having her back immediately made things more interesting. So, and I think the DMD CEO chance, which hopefully gets some kind of a back and forth when they do the match, it's interesting and it's exciting. And I'm like, okay, there's one match I care about. And then Mariah May won the Owen Hart tournament, the women's side of the tournament, and earned the title shot against Toni Storm, and then turned against her. And I'm like, there we go. We have a long-running story with a payoff, and then we have that match that works. And Mariah's kind of won me over. And I didn't watch Stardom, so I wasn't familiar with her. I'd heard the name, but I wasn't familiar with her when she came on board. And the storyline that she's been doing with Toni Storm, I'm like, okay, I'm digging this. I'm digging this. And eventually it's going to have to lead to a split and a match, and now we're at that point. And yeah, we've got another interesting match for All In. Now, they're doing Danielson versus Swerve for the title. I'm not a huge fan of that one. Again, yeah, when the bell rings, Danielson will deliver, Swerve will deliver. We know that. That's not the problem. My thing is the storyline side of things. You had Adam Hangman Page, who has an established history with Swerve, and they have unresolved issues. And Hangman has come back and he's turned into a heel, and it's like, okay, so it seemed to me the logical choice was to do Swerve versus Hangman in the big stadium setting, given the history that they had together. They're not doing that. They're going with Danielson. I get it. It's Danielson's last year, and they want to have him. They want to put him in a big match on the big show, and I don't know if they had anything else lined up, but. I was a little disappointed when I saw that Danielson won the tournament, because I was kind of looking forward to another Swerve Hangman match, especially in that big of a setting. Not the end of the world. It's not like a deal breaker or anything. I'm like, I don't know. It kind of feels like a missed opportunity to me. And again, no knock on Danielson. I just think from a storyline perspective, Hangman would have been the better option, but that's just how I feel. And I thought we were going to get MJF versus Will Ospreay, but they're doing that on next week's 250th Dynamite. I'm like, oh, okay. We'll see how all that goes. MJF as a heel, probably the better way to go for him. Although it brings up the question, like, what's the point of Adam Cole's group now? Like, they've got... I knew it when MJF came back and beat him up. I was like, okay, so they're done, right? Like, they're not even going to bother having a match because Adam Cole is not available due to his health issues. So they're just going to bull rush and give MJF something else. And it's like, okay, well, they've got me intrigued for Dynamite, not because, oh, they're doing a great match. It's like, oh, they're doing this in the dome. They're doing it before the dome. I'm like, or before the stadium. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm intrigued. Let's see what they're planning here. So the last couple of Dynamites, especially coming out of Forbidden Door, because one of my major criticisms with AEW, amongst several things, which is too many belts, too much programming, really diluted the show, and and speaking of too many titles, I have plenty to say about WWE and recent news that came out that I want to talk about. But the last couple of Dynamites, they've been doing things storyline wise that made me go, okay, that caught my attention. Oh, MJF turned heel. Oh, Britt's gonna... she's officially challenged Mercedes Moné. Oh, Mercedes Moné is a heel. The heel she should have been from the very beginning. Okay, cool. Oh, Mariah May turned on Toni Storm. That's cool. That's the stuff that generates interest among viewers and gets people to want to tune in to watch. It's not... hey, we got so-and-so from Japan to challenge Bryan Danielson to a match, and it's going to be a 5-star dream match. You better tune in. I'm like, that's not interesting. That's not exciting. Especially if you're, I mean, I'm knowledgeable, and I know who a lot of people are, because I'm a dork. I'm a wrestling dork. I'm familiar with many Japanese talents, but a lot of normal people don't know who these people are, so when you bring them on board, it's like, okay, who are they? I don't know, and it's not going to generate interest among viewers. Now, you do things like this, like the Toni Storm, Mariah May story, and bringing Britt Baker back and having MJF turn heel, and doing a match with Will Ospreay. That type of stuff generates interest and makes me want to watch the show. It's like, can we get back to more like this? More like this. And I haven't seen what the ratings have been for the last couple of episodes, so I don't know if it's translated to any kind of improvement in the ratings, but that stuff takes time. You've got to rebuild. They've got to rebuild some trust with the audience, I feel. So that's something that I don't think you're going to see a massive improvement with that overnight. This is going to have to take a while of consistency and a couple of big shows, big ideas that translate well to the audience. You can't just put on garbage and not that what they've been doing has been complete. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's not exciting. It's not interesting. It's just, hey, we got so-and-so from this company and they're having dream matches every week and we do the same style of matches every week. Yay! And it gets boring after a while. So, I mean, a lot of what makes wrestling interesting is building anticipation for things. And that's something that AEW has done better at the last couple of weeks. And I would prefer it if it headed more in that direction and we'd be all happy and sunshine and rainbows and it would be good. And here's hoping that All In turns into a really good show. We'll just have to wait and see. So, that's enough for AEW. What about WWE? What's been going on in the land of the Fed? I did not see Money in the Bank because it was the night before my daughter's baptism and birthday party. We had to do a lot of last-minute prep for that, so I completely missed it. And to be perfectly honest, and if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you probably know what I'm about to say. I hate multi-person ladder match. I have grown to hate these matches. Like, absolutely hate them. It started off as... the entire, evolution of my feelings on these matches went from, wow, this is really exciting and fun, back in the early 2000s when Edge and Christian, the Hardys, and the Dudleys were doing it. Then it turned into, like, okay, this is kind of fun. I guess it gets more people on the show, and a way to fill out the card with a little added attraction. And then it turned into... man, I've completely forgot about that match by the end of the show. These things are kind of being overdone. And now it has turned into full-blown hatred to where whenever one is signed, I immediately, zone out and just be like, make it stop. Just make it stop with the ladder matches. I can't. If you want to do a ladder match, build a storyline and a purpose for it. Stop with this, 6 to 8 man ladder matches. Forbidden Door had one. I completely forgot about that match outside of the fact that Jack Perry won. I have completely forgotten about that match since it happened. We're only a few weeks removed from the pay-per-view. We are less than a week removed from Money in the Bank, a show I didn't see. And now, with Money in the Bank, the prize matters, like the briefcase matters, and that's like, that becomes like part of the storyline. It's like, all right, who's going to cash in and when? And that's interesting, and it's kind of like the Royal Rumble, where the winner is probably more important than the match itself. Whoever wins the match and gets the prize to go on to WrestleMania, that's probably more important than the actual Royal Rumble match. But unlike the Royal Rumble, like the Royal Rumble match is actually fun to watch on its own. Like, even, like, there's a reason why, even before the WrestleMania title shot became a thing, like, the Royal Rumbles from 88, 89, 90, and 91 were fun to watch. It was a fun concept. Even though it ultimately didn't really mean all that much, it was still a fun match to watch, to see all those people interacting with each other and setting up matches for the future and creating special moments in the ring. And then once they added the important prize to it, it became even more important to watch. So the Royal Rumble is at least fun to watch. Money in the Bank ladder matches are not fun to watch because they're instantly forgettable, they're dangerous, they make no sense, and at this point in time, I'm so sick and tired of them, I don't want to watch another one for the rest of my life. So the idea of watching a pay-per-view that had 2 of these matches on it didn't generate much interest for me, and I was just not overly interested in it. So, yeah, that's kind of how I felt. So, yeah, we got the briefcase winners. Of course, they did the big angle with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, costing him yet again on the cash-in, adding fuel to the fire for that match. SummerSlam, I mean, that's a big match to have for SummerSlam, Punk's return, and this big match with Drew McIntyre that's been built up pretty much ever since Punk got hurt. So, I think that's interesting and exciting. Some people have complained that they wasted the briefcase to do this angle. I don't know. I kind of feel like... I don't know. I kind of feel like Punk made it hurt more by doing it the way he did, and it added a little bit of extra fuel to the fire by doing it the way they did. And also, we've seen like the Money in the Bank cash-ins, you know, for, God, we're getting close to 20 years now. And it's kind of like... you know, doing different variations on it, I think, is fine. And I think failing at the cash-in on the night you won the briefcase because somebody else screwed you out of it, that's something that hasn't really happened before. So I was okay with it. It's like, okay, that's something new that they've never really done with the briefcase before. So I was fine with it. And Tiffany Stratton was the obvious pick to win the briefcase, although I was kind of pulling for Chelsea Green because I adore her. I think she's and I've been a fan of hers for years. I loved her in TNA when she did the hot mess thing and got left at the altar and was the psycho bride and all that stuff. I thought all that was great. So I've seen her in interviews and she just gets it more than most people do. She knows it's about like making a character that connects with the audience, and she's really, really good at it. And so I was kind of hoping they would give it to her just to give her more to do on the show. But Tiffany, she's the new hotness right now, so I guess it made sense to give it to her. So no complaints there. God, what else is going on? Well, we've got SummerSlam. It looks like it's going to be Cody versus Solo Sikoa, which is not that interesting to me. I was kind of hoping for Cody versus Rock, or possibly Cody versus Orton, which is something I hope we get. You know, teacher versus student type of thing. I would be on board with that. But Cody versus Solo, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm not... Yeah, the bit where they put Paul Heyman through the table, I get that. That was fun. But I'm not feeling this new bloodline. I'm just kind of like, it's just a lesser version of the bloodline. Now, when Roman comes back, is that going to inject a lot of new life into it? Absolutely, and they'll have to figure out what to do, and hopefully they have a really good plan in place, and it'll make Roman, and again, like, Roman being gone for as long as he has been, when he comes back, it's going to be a big deal. And sometimes, like, taking time off and giving us a break from certain things lets us, like, get some rest, get used to not having you around, make us miss you, and then you come back bigger and better than ever, and we all go nuts. Again, AEW just did it with Britt Baker, and it worked great. MJF, he just came back, and we're all like super happy that he's back. So, I think the more exciting stuff with Solo and this new bloodline will come once Roman shows back up. Until then, I'm just kind of like biding my time. And if they wanted to have Cody do something exciting at SummerSlam, I was kind of hoping it would be him versus Randy. But I think that's a really good match to do. But it is what it is. And it looks like we're getting LA Knight versus Logan Paul, which is something I've been calling for a while now. Hopefully LA Knight would win that match. I would hope so. It looks like we're going to get Rhea versus Liv Morgan, which has been like the hottest storyline on Raw for the last couple of weeks. I don't know, probably since Rhea left. It's been like, the whole like Dominic thing. Of course, everybody's joking they need to do a Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan custody of Dominic Mysterio ladder match, a repeat of Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero from 2005, which, see, that's a good one to have a ladder match for. There's a storyline built into it, there's a conflict, and there's something to fight for. Just hang Dominic Mysterio off the ladder. That would be a more acceptable ladder match than cramming 8 people into a ladder match and just saying go nuts, which is pretty much what they do at this point. But, what else? John Cena has announced his retirement tour, so he will be retiring in 2025. Now, if he had made that announcement, like in the early days of this channel, like let's say 2011, 2012, I probably would have filmed a video that plays Kool and the Gang's Celebration while I drink champagne. I would have been like, oh, thank God he's gone. Thank God he's gone. But unfortunately, we're at a point now where I've kind of already gotten used to life without John Cena. In my mind, he's already been retired, and he's just a special appearance guy. So if this is like the end of John Cena, I'm like, I've already kind of moved on from the Cena era. So this is really a last hurrah for the John Cena fans out there that want to get to see him a few more times before he hangs it up. That's fine. I'm completely okay with that. I would use it as an opportunity to create some matches that Cena's never done before. I know some people are clamoring for Cena versus Orton. I never want to see that match ever again. That's like, they are the 21st century version of Hogan and Flair, where it's like, okay, maybe it was exciting at one time, but good God, when they were doing it in WCW like 99 and 2000, and they were doing it in TNA in 2011, I'm sitting there like, make it stop. Make it stop. No more Hogan Flair, please. Jesus. And I'm at that point with Cena and Orton. The guys have had 2 Hell in a Cell matches. I don't need to see it again. I really, really don't. So if they're putting Cena on this retirement tour, I would use him to create some matches that he's never had before. Like, I don't know, Gunther. Or, he's faced Seth Rollins and CM Punk. But, Drew McIntyre, is he everywhere? I don't think he's faced Drew since Drew has, gotten to the level that he's gotten to. So maybe that would be one worth doing. Maybe Cena versus Dominic Mysterio, just to have Cena whoop up on him and get some laughs. That would be... I called for them to do that at WrestleMania this year. I recall. That would be a fun match to do. But yeah, it's Cena's farewell. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I was the biggest fan of the guy, but he's calling it a career. He's had a Hall of Fame career. I won't try to deny otherwise. My personal enjoyment and my feelings on the matter aside, he had a big run. He's one of the biggest names in WWE history, and he's had his run, and this is going to be like a final farewell, I guess. I'm not overly excited about it myself because I was never a big fan of the guy, but, hey, give the man his just due and let him go out on his terms. I'm completely fine with that. I'm not... no problem. Now, I wouldn't give him the title again. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Let's not go down that road. But, yeah, create some exciting matches to, send him on his merry way, and then we can close the book on the John Cena era for good. So, that is that. And one more thing I wanted to talk about. It has been speculated that the WWE is going to introduce a women's Intercontinental and a women's United States Championship. I'm going to sit here right now and give my 2 cents. Please do not do this. Stop adding championships to the show. It only devalues what it means to be a champion when you have too many belts. And WWE, I would argue, already has too many belts. I was against the creation of the World Heavyweight Championship. I liked it better when Roman was the only one holding the belt. I liked that better. Sorry, I'm not sorry. I liked the tag team division better when the Usos were the sole holders of the tag team championship. It was better. And now you've got 2 sets of tag team titles floating around. I completely forget, who is holding those belts from week to week because it's just too much to keep track of. And it's just not important. It's like, well, who cares? There's another set of tag champions. It's like, who cares? And you cut the division in half, but when you do that, instead of having 8 to 10 teams, you now have 4 or 5 teams going for each individual tag titles. And it's just like, you cut the competition in half, and it makes it just less important to be a champion. And I'm sure some people would accuse me of being sexist by saying you don't want a women's Intercontinental, women's US title. It's like, they've already got 2. They've got a Raw title, a SmackDown title, and tag titles. And that's on top of like the other 47 belts that are floating around right now. I mean, what's been the complaint with AEW that I've been saying for years now? It's like they added too much. I don't think they need the TBS title. I don't think they need 47 men's singles titles. I forget half their names because there's too many of them. I don't think they need to have New Japan and AAA titles floating around on the show. And God help me if I see one more Ring of Honor belt on an AEW show, I'm going to take my TV and throw it out the window. I'm kidding, of course. But it's just it doesn't matter if you hold a belt. And if you get to a point where like everybody's holding a belt, well then who cares when somebody you like wins one? And I don't know, like again, when I was a kid, like WWF had it right, where it's you had the world title, the Intercontinental title, tag titles, and that was it. And granted, there's room for more. Like, okay, they probably could have, if they had put a little bit more effort into a women's division, probably could have had a women's title or something like that. But like they had a very simple, easy to understand set of championships to keep track of. And then over time, it's become a mess, especially when you throw the brand split on top of it and everything else. And again, like, this is not a WWE problem. This is AEW has this problem. New Japan has this problem. It seems like everybody's solution to generate interest is to just create more belts. And I'm like, guys, that's not... that's not what you should be doing. And I remember reading an article or an entry on the WrestleCrap website, which is a site I've been going to for like 20 years now. I think it's great. I love it. But they talked about like the crown, like like back in the late 80s when you had Macho King Randy Savage and King Hacksaw Jim Duggan and King Haku, King Harley Race, and it almost became like another championship in a way that was defended. And I remember the article was written in a way where they talked about how like in the other companies in the NWA, most guys were vying for some kind of championship because the NWA had so many championships. At that time, they had the U.S. Tag Champs and the World Tag Champs, which I look back on that and I'm like, why did you have 2 sets of tag team championships? That's just confusing. And they were kind of like, where in WWE it was more cartoon character land, and they would create storylines that were specific to the individual cartoon characters and creating more silly situations. That was written in a way to make it sound like the NWA's way of doing things was right. And I'm like, I completely disagree. I think the WWF had it right, where they created unique and interesting characters, and they created stories around those characters that are specific to those characters. Because when you have 8,000 championships to go for, and it turns the wrestlers into interchangeable cogs just going for belts, and that's all they ever do. And it's much easier to get lost in the shuffle in that kind of system. But that's my opinion. I don't know. I sound like a broken record. It's like there's too many belts. There's too many hours of programming. Make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. So if they actually do go ahead and introduce a women's Intercontinental and a women's United States Championship, I'm like, great, that's going to hurt the women's division in the long run, because it's like, oh yeah, people will get more title reigns, sure, but it's not going to mean anything. Who cares? Like, it's just... So instead of having 2 singles titles floating around, and notice, I'm not even counting NXT, which, by the way, I didn't see the last NXT special because I just don't watch NXT. I don't have time, and I already like kind of worked that out of my rotation, and I just haven't gotten back into it. But it's just too much. It's just way, way, way too much, and I don't know how like God, because I'm trying to put myself in the mind, if I was a kid, would I be able to follow all this between jumping back and forth between the brands and keeping track of who the champions are and everything? And maybe the kids just don't care. I don't know. But I feel like if I was watching this at 6 or 7 years old, it'd be like, wait, because I did it when I started getting into WCW. It's like, why are there 2 sets of tag champ? Why do they have 2? Why is there an international title and a WCW title? Why isn't there just a WCW world title? I don't understand why we've got two belts floating around? And these were questions I was asking back then. It's like, that's just confusing. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old man yelling at the sky once again. But there are good things going on in WWE right now. There are AEW's finally, I don't know, got their act together and is actually putting on halfway decent shows now and actually doing things that are generating interest, which has been sorely missing from their show. And not just because of Forbidden Door. Like, for a while, they've been struggling to tell compelling stories. But I guess with All In coming up, they've kind of, honestly, I would say as like since Sting's retirement, like they've really struggled creating stories that generate interest and make me want to watch the show. But that has changed the last couple of weeks. Hopefully they're able to continue that momentum heading into their big show, and we get another great show in Wembley, and hopefully without a backstage fight that causes problems and damages the brand's reputation. But I think I've rambled on long enough. That is all I have for you now. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. I shall say that the next video I plan on doing is my question and answers video. So if you want to submit questions, go ahead and submit them to the email address listed down below, and I will get to your question in the next video. So be on the lookout for that. But that is all I have for you now. Thanks again, everybody, for watching, and I will see you all later.